So now I'm going right into English without these long introductions, without a long time when I prepare myself, because it's quite late in here, and I prefer to spend let's say 40 minutes on recording all the thoughts I want to tell about to tell today, then spend 10 to 15 minutes about different thoughts just to put me into the mood. And the first idea is about Shlakhter. Shlakhter is the motivator writer. He was a military man, and he creates his motivational speeches based on his experience being in the army and having real fights with the enemies of the country, being the military man. He had in that he was in the type of army where everyone got a loaded gun, and no type of let's say dedovshchina was not possible in this type of army, because every person could just use his gun and shoot the other person who wanted to play the role of the dead. Yeah, and it was a real army when he protected the borders of Russia, when he came to the near neighbor countries and got some what they call yazik, from whom they took the information about the location of their enemies and so on. And after they got the information out of this yazik informator, they needed to kill him, because in another case he just would call the reinforcements of his own army, and their spy mission would be in danger. And so when Shlakhter created his motivational stories, his motivational seminars, he told a lot of stories from his experience of being in this fighting army. The same way Litvak told lots of stories from his experience of being psychiatrist and working with real people who had problems with the psychic, the mind. And the first story I remembered from listening to Litvak's seminars about this particular informator from whom they got the necessary information, and then they killed him. I think Shlakhter told that they killed him with the knife. They just sliced his throat, because they couldn't use guns and bullets. It would have been too loud for them, and they had this spy mission, and they couldn't reveal the location to the enemies. And the idea that Shlakhter wanted to say from this example, that when this particular guy was killed, okay, he had a smile on his face, said something about the God, maybe Allah, yeah, and he smiled, dying, because he served to his God till the end. I am not sure that, I think he didn't give any information on his friends, on his brothers in the army, but he was useless for this particular military guys of Russia, so they killed him, and because he was faithful to his religion to the end, he smiled, dying, yeah. And Shlakhter asked this question, like, who was the winner, the real winner in this fight, when military guys got the enemy and they killed him, or this particular enemy felt free to go because he wasn't linked by this real life. He was freed with his belief in his God. Yeah, this was the first situation I remembered from listening to Shlachter's seminars. The second one is about the restaurant experience. Shlakhter had, let's say, a dinner with his woman at some restaurant, and he ordered something, yeah, and he and his woman waited for this order to be served by the waiters, and at this moment Shlakhter heard a yell from one of the tables. There were two guys, two businessmen sitting on that table, and one of them yelled something like, "We can't do business together this way." And Shlakhter looked around, and he saw that at one of the tables there was a lonely guy who just sat there, drank some coffee, and after this yell he started, and he smoked some cigarettes, and after this yell this guy take out his handkerchief and started to rub, to clean his fingerprints from the teacup, from the spoons, from the knife. And then he took out a bag and put the remains of the cigarettes into this bag and take it with him, so that he didn't left any fingerprints. And then Shlakhter saw another table, and there were two guys. These guys have the appearances of people, citizens of some country in Near East, and they wore some suits, and these suits, Shlakhter saw some the outlines of some objects that he could determine because he had this army background. So his actions were the following. He put on the table, he put a big, huge banknote of huge value on the table without waiting for their order. The value of this banknote was larger than the money for the order. He grabbed his woman and left this restaurant as soon as possible. Then he went he got into his car with his woman, and when he was preparing to leave this particular parking lot, he saw that I think two of these businessmen left the restaurant, and they were shaking hands. They were smiling at each other. This meant that they agreed on the business that they had discussed in this restaurant, and each of them got into their own car and departed. And then two guys who wore those jackets, they left the restaurant as well. They got into some blank dull, and the car that couldn't be noticed because it wasn't noticeable. Some Wazik or Gaizik, and they departed as well. And the last man who left the restaurant was that guy who took all the remains of his cigarettes with him, and he just walked out of the restaurant, and then he went into some back alleys somewhere behind this restaurant, and he walked there and disappeared from the sight. And the behavior of Shlakhter was illogical from the point of view of his woman, because he didn't get he didn't get the order, but he paid for it with more money than this order really cost, and he left the restaurant without having dinner in it. But from his own point of view, when he noticed all these events that happened in the background of the restaurant, it was the only logical decision. And to prove that, when he left with his woman, when he walked out of the restaurant, he saw that the guy who cleaned the fingerprints from all the dishes and who took the remains of his cigarettes with him, this guy smiled at him as Shlakhter was leaving the restaurant together with his woman. So it was just a pure luck that this business finished this successful way. But in a more realistic outcome, all the people who were in this restaurant at the time could be the victims of some business discussion with the usage of guns. So this is the second story, and I like the story very much. It's very interesting. It's about noticing these things. And I remember now, I think the third story that Shlakhter told with his experience with the militia in somewhere, I think in Moscow. Yeah, Moscow is the huge city, and there are lots of departments, local departments of the militia. So Shlakhter is quite a huge guy, and he is a professional sambo fighter, sambo sportsman, and he kind of have a square constitution, yeah, broad shoulders, wide waist, strong arms and legs, and even with this complexion, he somehow got into this local militia's department, and they kind of decided to get money out of him or something like that. They just or they wanted something from him, or they just could put him in some solitary cell or something, yeah, because they had this power. And when they wanted to get the money from him or something from him, they just kicked him slightly with the legs to show their serious tensions. And Shlakhter acted some role or behavior. He hold his breath. He moved his eyes to the ceiling, and he kind of slided from his chair, yeah, kind of under the table. This when he held his breath, his pulse became slower, and he showed the actions, the something that usually happened to the men who had heart problems. And when the man with heart problems had huge stress, like with this militia accident, he just the potential man with heart problem, he could just have the heart attack, and the whole behavior of his body will be identical to what Shlakhter created artificially. And this militia guy is called the local doctor, as Shlakhter said, Konoval, the guy who had only 3 classes of education, and he had the diploma from some medical institute, and he acted as the doctor for this local department. And this doctor came and checked the pulse, maybe checked the eyes, and he concluded that this guy had the heart attack, and they shouldn't be surprised because of his strong complexion. He just had the weak heart, and the stress kind of created something like the heart attack. So if they didn't want to had a corpse on their arms from this just simple accident, they just took this guy and his armpits and kind of took him out of the department, out of the wall, out of the door, and somewhere at the distance they just threw him in the snow, because I think it was winter. And they created the situation as if some guy just walked along the road in the night in winter, and he just had some random heart attack and fell on the ground in the snow and just died. And they didn't have any connection to this guy and to this accident. When they left, Shlakhter just stood up from the snow, took off the snow took the snow off his clothes and walked along the road to follow his own business. Yeah. This is the next interesting story I remembered. I think it was the third story, and the first one about this military enemy, then the restaurant, and this now about this experience with heart attack acting accident. The fourth episode that I remember from Shlachter's seminars, and which was quite cool, is about his younger years, when he was a sportsman, and he trained in this sambo sports, and he with his friend returned from some training session, and they Shlakhter saw as several guys from who were the citizens of the near east, they just kicked and hit some guy, one guy, and Shlakhter suggested to his friend to save this guy. Then his friend asked whether his friend suggested that this guy or these near east citizens could kick the guy for some reason, for some business or something, not just for no reason. Yeah. But then Shlakhter said that he would help in any case, and he asked his friend whether his friend would abandon him when he went to fight these foreigners. Yeah. Of course, his friend agreed to help him, and together the two sportsmen who were trained in sambo, they easily kicked off all the guys, all these foreigners. They saved this one guy, and then his friend just checked all the jackets of these foreigners and got lots of banknotes, lots of money from them. And his friend considered this money as the payment for him and for Shlakhter, that they kind of helped this man. They didn't take the money from the man. He just took the money from these foreigners. against whom they fought. Then he suggested Shlakhter to divide this money into two halves, because they put their efforts in equal amounts. Yes, to fight against these guys, and Shlakhter just denied this, refused this money. So his friend said that he would keep this money until Shlakhter wanted to take them back. And the conclusion of this story, that his friend, who had this rational type of mind, first he didn't want to get into this saving operation without knowing who was the victim and what was the reason of this fight, and then he got the money for his saving operation. So this guy was a businessman who owned some huge factories somewhere in the middle of Russia. And he, Shlakhter, was just a trainer who created seminars and taught different people of some wisdom that he got from his life being the military guy and from his life in general. This is the fourth story. Okay, I remember now the fifth story is about his army days, and Shlakhter thought that he was the cleverest guy in the world until the moment from his childhood, until the moment when he started to make dissertations, diplomas in the university, and then he had hesitations about him being the cleverest, the smartest guy in the world. And when he was in the army, he didn't want to perform stupid commands from his the manager of the army, the guy who had the higher status in the army. Anyway, when Shlakhter was ordered to clean the place where they marched during the day, he refused to perform this stupid action, and then at some fighting training, his manager put him against several specially trained men. So they just broke him couple of ribs. This way, the truth about the world came into Shlakhter's mind with these two broken ribs, and it was the easy pay for this truth of the world. The next day, Shlakhter woke up, let's say at 5 o'clock in the morning, when the necessary time of waking up was 6 o'clock. He went to this place where they marched during the day, and he cleaned it, and then he reported that he cleaned all the places to his manager in the army. And a month later, Shlakhter himself was promoted to this manager position. So his moral for this story was that if you needed to perform something that should be performed, you should perform this with the mood. It's like something like they couldn't make you love this process of doing, but they can restrain your freedom if you refuse to do this. But if you perform all these actions which are necessary, if you perform these actions willingly, with the mood, with the kind of happy and intentions to do this, they can't do anything to you. Well, I think I need to check this information in his books, because I remember the story itself, but I forgot the moral of the story about this cleaning in army. Well, let's say this is the fifth story. The fifth story. Yeah. Maybe the sixth story was about his friend who came to St. Petersburg from some place somewhere in Russia where they had these military actions with the guns, with the deaths and other stuff. So when his friend walked with him during some daytime, then the gun on Petropavlovsk tower or castle shot because it showed each hour shooting. Cannon. Maybe shooting the cannon was the way to show that the next hour passed. Yeah. And when this guy heard the shot from the cannon, he jumped on the ground, lied with his face down on the ground, and put his arms around his head. Then some time later, he stood up from the ground, smiled, and just walked forward with Shlakhter. And it was the illogical action from the point of view of any citizen of St. Petersburg, but it was a really logical action from the point of view of this guy, because from where he came from, the shot of the cannon was the certain death if you can't hide yourself from the possible bullets or something. Yeah, you need to get as close as possible to the ground to shoot yourself from this cannon shot. So it was logical, and it is the main thing. You have to behave the way that is logical for you and not for other people, because it's their problem that they don't think that you are logical in your actions. And the next story that I remembered from his seminars is that he walked with his friend who had some military, I don't know, status, quite high military status, but for that day he was on like vacations and he was in his civil clothes, but he had this type of hair of beard when let's say a couple of hours after he just shaved himself, he again all his face was black of all his beard that just grew for this couple of hours. And with this the black beard, he looked like the citizen of some country in the near east, though he was a really Russian citizen, and he was some officer. Okay, he was an officer in the army. Yeah. So when they Shlakhter and his friend walked somewhere, yeah, along the road, they met some I don't know, some military guy who just walked in this city. Yeah, he wasn't. This guy never was in real fight with the guns somewhere with the enemies, but he was just here, and he had very low status in the military, I don't know, organization. So when he saw Shlachter's friend, who looked like the guy from the Near East, he started to joke at him as saying something like the guy with the black, okay, the black S guy, yeah. And Shlachter's friend became furious. He came to this low level, maybe officer or military guy, and he yelled at him to bring to him his manager, the officer who was above him, because this particular military guy had some problems with his military outfit. When that guy asked what was the problem, Shlachter's friend took the thing that was stitched to his shoulder, like the sign of his status in the army, and he ripped this thing out of his shoulder, and then he said that this military guy had the problem with his worn outfit, and he was so furious and he was so in the mood that this military guy ran quickly to his officer, to his high officer, to his manager, called him, and when officer came and Shlachter's friend again told all the story about having problems with the outfit, then the officer just said that he was sorry for his subordinate, yeah, and he I don't know, gave a sign of order, or gave a sign of honor to Shlachter's friend. He promised that he would take the necessary actions against this subordinate, and then Shlachter's friend just walked away with Shlakhter. And some time later, Shlachter's friend felt kind of strange, maybe shy, because he remembered that he had no any signs of showing that he was a high officer. He was the higher officer than these two guys were, and according to the army standard, he was the manager to these two guys, but he was in such a mood that they didn't even think of asking him for his identity or something like that. They just felt him being the superior officer to them. And the moral of this particular story was that some people just could do some things. They were allowed to do some things, and some other people were not allowed to do these things, and it's not the statuses or some signs of distinguish of level or something. This is the state of mind when the person thinks that he is allowed to do some particular thing. And he told this story to illustrate this example, and the story is quite interesting, and I remembered it just now when I was talking about all the stories. The next story I remember, Shlakhter didn't say who was, didn't tell who was the guy in the story, but someone of his acquaintances. So this guy was at the gas station, and he filled the tank of his car with this gas, petrol, I don't know. And then the guys on the jeep came, and they started to yell at him because he kind of took their place. They wanted to fill the gas tank as quickly as possible, and he was in front of them in the way. And they continued to do this stuff. Some just guys who thought that they were quite cool. And then this particular guy, after he filled his gas tank, he took off this hose that he used to fill the gas tank, and he pointed this hose on their car, and he started to pour the car with the petrol that went out of this hose. And the guys continued to talk something about their place and other stuff until they realized what was going on, that he just poured the gasoline over his car. And then they stopped talking shit to him. He took out the lighter that was created by some special company, the lighter that didn't took off the fire when it was in the wind. Yeah, the lighter that he could throw at this gasoline puddle around the car, and the fire would not go off, and it could ignite the whole puddle. So he took off the lighter, I think lighted his cigarette, laughed at these guys, got into his car and just drove away. And sometime later, at some of the sports gyms, he encountered these guys. They were doing sports, and he came to them and he asked them why they didn't find him after his performance, because they easily remembered the numbers of the number plate of his car, so it was easy for them to find him. For this laughing at them, and they answered that first, no one paid them for killing him, so they couldn't just do some work for nothing. And second, there was no point in killing this insane guy, who was such insane that he could pour the gasoline at the gas station and light a cigarette over the gasoline puddle. So I don't know the moral for this story, but it's quite an interesting story from the experience of some particular guy who was able to go against guys who thought they were cool and who solved all the troubles with their strength and maybe with the guns, and he kind of defeated them by his behavior alone. Yeah. Well, maybe at some point I will remember some other stories from his books. Maybe I will reread his books and rewatch his seminars. But for now, I think it was an interesting stuff, because actually I planned to speak about, I think, 4 some stories from his seminars. And I even remembered these stories, like the restaurant, when he fought against some foreigners with his friend, with this cannon shot. But other stories just popped up in my mind when I spoke. So it was like something when I started to pull the string of memories from my mind that were connected to Schlachter's stories. This string just pulled another stories and another, because they were kind of connected to each other, because they were all from the topic of this Litvak's seminars and his books. So I think that was an interesting maybe experience of getting some information that I read a long time ago, maybe about 10 years ago, and these stories impressed me quite hard. I don't know whether the stories are real or they had some fiction elements in them, but they are quite interesting and they're quite realistic to be real. And anyway, these stories are more connected to the life than some stories from fiction books that I read and that I like to retell. So that's all for today, and bye.